Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Z. I'm a clinical psychologist specializing in transgender care. Welcome to my channel and welcome to our Monday's Q&As. This is where I answer your direct and specific questions as long as they can be generalized to the rest of the public. So if you do have a question that is specific to situation, don't hesitate to email it to me at info@drzphd.com. The email is in the description box below. Having said that, as always, I block out everybody's name for privacy reasons, and I have randomly selected 6 questions that first come in my question folder. They organized by the date they sifted in. So here we go, 6 questions for today. There's going to be also timestamps below, so you can jump around if you're interested. First question for today. First question is actually a long one, so bear with me. Please do keep in mind when you do write questions to me to keep them somewhat short and dense, because we're projecting them on a screen for everybody else to see, and because they are sometimes can be much more difficult, and sometimes more context is not necessarily always better. So bear with me, this is a long question, so let's get going. Question number 1. Hi, Dr. Z. I wanted to pose this question because I see it in various online communities and thought it might help others. Some facts were slightly changed to protect identity. I'm a 24-year-old trans woman, and I've been married to a cis woman for 12 years. We have 3 kids together. I came out about 2 years ago, and my transition has given me a whole new second life. Since undergoing hormones, my wife has admitted to not being sexually attracted to me anymore, but still loving me to the extent of not being able to imagine not being together. I love her too, but without the romance and intimacy, it can feel more like the love that I have for my children. I thought I was a lesbian for the longest time, but recently one of my friends has caught my attention and I found the feeling is reciprocated. But this is a man. I've been curious about men, but never pursued them, and now I find myself eager. How do you handle marriage during transition when the relationship is strong, but that intimacy is gone and your sexual orientation is changing? Do I trash my stable home in the pursuit of my changed sexuality and longing for intimacy? I know there's no single answer, but I'm hoping your insight into gender, sexuality, etc. will help shine some light for myself and others in similar situations. This is a fantastic question because it is incredibly common for so many of you who are in a similar situation. So it's very, very common to be in a relationship 12 years or even longer, where a partner usually goes through transition, and as a result of transition, your partner no longer finds you sexually attractive. You may also no longer find your partner may be sexually attractive, albeit that usually much rare, but your sexuality might also change, as seen in this case for sexuality starting to fluctuate. And a lot of times I see in a relationship, people will stay together because the bond, the emotional attraction they have is still very, very strong, but the sexual intimacy, that erotic bond, is absent. What do you do in this situation, right? It's not an easy cut type of scenario, and I'll give you some feedback on what I would ask you if I was working with you. So for starters, usually in my experience, the older people will help me understand and elicit information on to what extent sexuality actually matters to them. In my experience, and I know that sexuality varies for anybody, I don't want to say that the older you are, that means you're completely turning into asexual and you're no longer interested in sex, which is absolutely not true. We all know that. For some people, when they get past certain age, for them, sexual intimacy becomes less relevant. If that's the case for individuals, then we discuss parameters of maintaining a relationship if there's emotional bond. In your case, you're very young, 24 is very young, and obviously you say sharing that sexuality is very important to you. Not only is it important to you, but you're finding that now that the intimacy, sexual intimacy is gone from your marriage, you're finding that you are relating to your partner more as in a platonic way, more as a friend, that erotic element is gone, which can change and shift the trajectory of a relationship. So what to do in this type of scenario when your partner is not attracted to you sexually, but they want to maintain a relationship because they have emotional connection to you and vice versa? this is something that falls in a parameters for you to decide, to say that, do I trash my stable home in a pursuit of change of sexuality and longing for intimacy? This is very strong language. I don't recommend anybody trashing something that they built. What I do recommend is for you to take a lucid, realistic look at what happened to marriage to this point. In other words, how has the transition and your evolution of the self has affected the dynamics and parameters of marriage? Sometimes couples change. They change to the extent where they still care deeply for each other, but in their hearts, they don't necessarily want to remain in a partnership together. And sometimes people don't want to acknowledge or bring it up or vocalize that because they don't want to hurt each other. So what I recommend is to take a look at realistic reality of your relationship. If you genuinely find that you care for your partner, but you no longer desire to be in the marriage container, if you will, long term, then there is something for you to ponder. It's not necessarily about jumping the ship in pursuit of your sexuality in order to explore it or experiment with it. It's more about looking at what you have and is it actually serving and fulfilling the needs that you have. And if it doesn't, what does it tell you then about your relationship? I would also open this conversation with your partner. What does your partner has to say about this? Perhaps your partner also had some thoughts about the way relationship has changed and the way the dynamic has changed, and perhaps they have some their own things to share with you in terms of where they at. If you're 34, I assume your partner is probably you said your partner is a cis woman. She's probably also close to that age. Perhaps she's also been wanting and desiring to be in a relationship with somebody who desires her, somebody who she equally desires in return, and she's afraid to vocalize it to you. So it's about a conversation burning and opening up. Transition does change a relationship. It is bound to change relationship, and some couples find a way around it. They find new meanings, they find new ground, and some couples pull away and they realize, hey, we still care about each other, but this is no longer a viable marital partnership to continue move forward. So before you decide on anything, because that what you say is longing for intimacy can be very strong. Because when people do transition and people get more aligned with their authentic selves, there's also internal desire to be desired and seen in the authenticity through the lens of intimacy, through the lens of sexuality. They're just normal desires that all of us possess. And when we don't have that reciprocated from our partners, that longing it can quickly burst the minute we come across somebody that desires us in that way. So before you, like you say, trash anything, have a conversation, open up, have a dialogue, talk about all the things. I'm sure something is going to come out of it. But that's what I recommend, because relationships do change and it's normal and natural for them to change. And it's important to acknowledge the change in the relationships. So I wish you all the best. Great question. And a very common one where either a partner is no longer sexually interested in you, or your sexuality changes and you're no longer interested in your partner. And these are all normal changes when we evolve. And it's all about learning how to navigate those changes. And it's all about learning how to find maybe even a compromise, maybe even something that will work for both of you. And sometimes the solution is nothing is going to work for both of us and we have to part ways. And that just means that, one chapter in a book of your life has to close so that another one can be open. And that's also a wonderful thing. Great question. Question number 2. Dear Dr. Z, I do hope you're well. Thank you. I am very well. I appreciate that. I have another question that you might consider a good fit for your Q&A. As always, I greatly appreciate your content. As an adult who is a trans woman, but medically transitions through cross-sex hormones and is on the waiting list for gender reassignment surgery, I have a concern that medical treatment may be withdrawn at some point in the future, given the current political climate. If you go through GRS and hormone therapy ceases to be available, that will put my physical health and gender at greater risk than not going through GRS would. In an ideal world, I would choose to go through with GRS, but we don't live in that world. Is it possible that I can choose not to go through GRS and learn to be satisfied with what I already have? This is a very, very important question. A lot of people have been in my practice started asking me this question, especially young adults asking me, should I go ahead and have, for example, orchiectomy? And if I remove the main production of my testosterone, what if down the road hormones are not accessible? Transmasculine individuals have the same concerns in terms of getting hysterectomy. So it's a valid and legitimate concern in today's climate. And a lot of people do wonder whether they can just bypass surgery. This is solely my opinion. My opinion, understanding the current political climate, is that can hormones be restricted or prohibited for adults? Potentially, anything could happen. I would say potentially, yeah, it can happen. I strongly believe, again, this is just my opinion, I strongly believe that if that were to happen, for individuals who already have gone through either going through hormone therapy or individuals who have had surgeries where their body can no longer now produce particular hormone, I am pretty certain that there's still going to be accessibility to those individuals. So in other words, the worst catastrophic case scenario, hormones are being prohibited for adults. The way I see it's happening is that it's going to be a cap of, well, individuals who were already on hormones or who already had surgeries, who need those hormones will continue to receive those hormones. And I do think that the hormones for adults will still be available. I think they're just going to put a lot of restrictions in place, like X amount of years of therapy, all of those gatekeeping things. That is talking about a very, very worst case of scenario. I don't genuinely think it's ever going to get to that way in the United States. I really don't think so it will. But again, this is my opinion, right? None of us have a crystal ball in the future. None of us have a crystal ball on how things are going to play out and who's going to be in administrative office and who's going to be spinning out those policies. Having said that, I also think that when it comes down to deciding how this fear is going to play out versus living with dysphoria in regards to genitals, it comes down to you assessing your level of distress. Because you have to make the decision, and that's not an easy decision, but continue to live with dysphoria in regards to your genitals, because you're so afraid that the hormones are going to be capped for you, that's also really detrimental to your health and your well-being, and as well deteriorates your overall living, your quality of life tends to drastically diminish. So it's I would say, if I were working with you, I would really encourage you to think about how the dysphoria might affect the quality of your life, and how getting the surgery you need is going to better the quality of your life, and spend less time concerned about the fears that I think is quite, like I said, it can happen, but I think it's really far-fetched in my opinion. And I think that a lot of people who are in advocacy work and constantly in the political changing climates, I will probably attest to the same thing. But again, this is all obviously just not a concrete answer in terms of this will never happen. And I don't think anybody can ever give a concrete answer. In life, anything can happen. Anything can happen. You're not guaranteed tomorrow. You think you're going to live tomorrow, but you have no guarantee. I'm not guaranteed tomorrow. None of us are. We all are at potential to suddenly die for no reason. We really are. Driving a car, we sometimes don't realize that that's one of the most dangerous activities. We can get in a car accident anytime. So I just want you to think about that sometimes we're fearing things that are not yet here, and we're catastrophizing them and we're thinking about them, when we really need to focus on what really affecting our health right now and how we can better that in the immediate front. So that's what I recommend. But gosh, so many people are worried about it. It's such a legitimate concern, and the younger generation is especially very terrified of this being very true. Good question. So I wish you all the best with that decision. Question number 3. Can you go over presentation and gender identity again? So this is, I did a video, gender identity versus gender role versus gender presentation, which if you haven't seen is a really, really good video to break down what all those three are. I feel pressured by my community, excuse me. I've been recording content for you all day today on a Saturday. I had an opportunity to break away from my church, so my voice is have that nice cigarette smoking, sexy, rusty, crusty sound to it. I feel pressured by my community to dress ultra feminine, or I'm not truly trans femme. First of all, this is bullshit. This is such bullshit. There's no such thing as trans femmes. There's no, and if there is, somebody please show me what it looks like, because this is such imposed, now imposed constructs by trans community. That's not true. I don't like wearing a dress all of the time. I mostly like wearing a band logo t-shirt and jeans. Yeah, so do I. I hate wearing dresses. I don't like having to live by gender norms. Good for you. I hate feeling like that I have to date a guy to be considered a woman. You don't. I remember a video of you telling a trans woman to still listen to Metallica and ride her motorcycle. Heck yes. Hey, whatever rocks your boat, whatever your interests are, those interests, they defined by society as masculine or feminine. Society seldom knows what society is talking about. I'm not sure you will see this. I am seeing this, but thank you. And I have requests. Can you make a video about ways to deal with this form of, sorry, this is next question. Okay, so to this question, what to do when your community, you feel a lot of pressure. First of all, it's really important, very important, to recognize that the pressure that you feel like pressure is really projections of everybody else. There's their projection, that there's a cultural thing, there's their constructs. They need to deal with those things. They're not yours. Your gender identity, again, your core sense of who you are, doesn't have to be in alignment or parallel to or mirror your gender role and gender expression. It can be, but it doesn't have to be. An example is, for me as a cis woman, my gender role doesn't have to be feminine. In fact, it is not feminine. And my expression doesn't have to be feminine. It can be, but it doesn't have to be. For you, your gender identity is feminine. Your expression and role can be anything and everything that you envision yourself to be. It's very, very important not to fall prey to these ideas that as a trans woman, you have got to wear a dress, you have got to wear high heels, you have got to wear makeup, you have got to give up this music that considered to be guys' music, you have got to give up activities that are considered to be guys' activities. Very important not to fall prey to that. You have to find from your life prior to your transition that is still meaningful to you, that is still something you enjoy, and hold on to that and not genders of things. And you have to let go of things you had to do in order to present in a particular way that no longer you feel are in alignment with you. Very, very important. A lot of this, and I see this a lot also perpetuated by transgender community itself, that if you don't know this, you're really not transgender. If you don't go through surgeries, you're not transgender. If you're not constantly wearing makeup, you're not transgender. It's really not true. These are just impositions people project onto others, but you have to find your own essence, your own human essence beyond gender norms, beyond gender expectations, how you want to show up for yourself, what makes you when you wake up in the morning happy to put on in terms of your outfit, what gets you all excited. For me, you all know color black just rocks my boat. You put me in a print and I'm going to be itching all day. If you put me in a print, I'm going to be hating how I look. I'm going to be in a shitty mood and I'm going to be very cranky. Nobody puts me in a print. I don't put myself in a print because I know print doesn't work for me. Find what works for you and hold on to it. Don't let anybody dictate to you otherwise. The minute we allow others to dictate how we ought to be is the minute we give up. We completely give up our sovereignty and ownership over ourselves. We're all individual sense. I don't know about you, but I don't want to be a carbon copy of somebody living down the street or somebody living across the country from me. I want to be a carbon copy of myself because there's only one me. And I hope the same goes for you. So if you feel pressured by community, and if that's how your community is, perhaps find another community that loves you for who you are. And this is not just a bullshit phrase, love you for who you are. It's true. Find people who respect you for making your own decisions, respect you for showing up how you see yourself, versus um, being blindly following sheep and conforming to the way a lot of other people conform. So yay to your individuality. And Metallica and motorcycles are amazing. I have such a weakness for motorcycles. My father used to be a professional racer on dirt bikes in Russia, and I have weakness for motorcycles. Every time I see motorcycle, my heart melts. So motorcycles are amazing. Next question. This is question number 4. I'm not sure if you will see this. I am seeing this, but thank you. And I have a request. Can you make a video about ways to deal with these forms of denial? So this looks like a response to video I did recently on denial. I lost 41 years of my true self to the first stage. So if you haven't seen, it's a video where I talk about 3 stages of denial. First stage was where you completely denying that dysphoria is happening to you. The second stage was easy, and I'm not sure I even experienced it, but I'm having real issues with holding myself to standards a 42-year-old trans woman won't be able to meet. I deeply fear that I'll only ever be able to be seen as a man in a dress or a monster. It's my worst fear. I would also request more of series that talks directly more to therapists who aren't as experienced as you with gender issues. So I'm not sure how you would do this. Okay, so this is, I guess you're describing that you're more in a second stage of denial, where I'm trying to remember how I describe second stage of denial. Perhaps it was usually this holding yourself to this unrealistic standards. I will never pass. I will, or having a very strong ideal. Before I answer that question, let me just quickly answer a question about requests for more series and talks directly for therapists. Look, my passion and my heart belongs to all of you. And I want to make videos solely only for all of you, because a lot of you are so deprived and in need of a solid, knowledgeable content, and you deserve it. And a lot of people can't afford or don't have luxury or possibility to work with a gender specialist. And this is why I create these videos for all of you. In terms of therapists, I started somewhere without any knowledge about gender issues. If a person really wants to work in a gender field, there's classes, there's seminars. By all means, if any therapist just watched every single video I produced, and there's 200 plus videos, they would be way ahead on the knowledge of gender dysphoria and gender issues than any other therapist. So it's all they have to do is just watch. The information I share is equally as relevant for any therapist that wants to understand, as it is equally relevant for all of you. But my heart is with all of you. You can't pull me away from creating content for all of you. So therapists can learn on their own. So having said that, what to do when you feel like, and it sounds like you're early in your transition, because you said 41 years to spend in denial, and now as you know, in this age, you're wondering how you're going to ever live up to the standards. You're concerned that you will never pass. This is also very, very common. A lot of people have initially that fear that I won't pass, that I'm going to be seen as a man in a dress or a monster, just horrible internal dialogue going on. What I say is take steps and assess along the way. First step is you acknowledge you having distress, you having dysphoria. Second step is what can we do to alleviate it? If for you it is hormones, when you start hormones, see how it makes you feel. Capitalize on building those blocks of confidence, of feeling better, of starting to calm and owning who you are, and starting to really lift up the dysphoria so that you can finally see and be able to breathe and be able to live. It's very common to have those catastrophic thoughts. I will never. A lot of people have those I will never. I will never pass. I will never be seen as myself. Usually early stages of thoughts framing. They usually start very early in stages when nothing has changed about you yet. And it's normal and natural to have those catastrophic thoughts. I guarantee you, the person you are today having those catastrophic thoughts is not the person that has taken little steps and built up, and a person even from year from today. Why? Because once people start taking steps and build up on them, they start realizing how much happier they feel. They start realizing how much more congruent they feel. As a result, the dysphoria gets lifted. As a result, they start feeling much more connected to us. As a result, they no longer even care about possibility. It may still be there. But what they realize now is how much happier they are. In other words, you don't know how much it's going to help you until you actually step into the helping position, okay? So that's really, really important to note. A lot of people, they don't do anything about their dysphoria because the thoughts of fear will never pass preoccupy such a big chunk of their headspace that it paralyzes them in their tracks and prevents them from moving forward. Don't let that paralyze in your tracks. You are catastrophizing something that is not here yet. Like I said, I have seen amazing things happen to people as they take in those steps, as they capitalize and build up on those steps. I have also seen a lot of people express how much happier they are, how much things you worry about now are not things that they're worried about today. There's the chapter in my book where, and if you want my book, you don't have it, you can't afford it, email me, I'll send you a PDF copy of it, where I say, and it's a chapter on passing, it's exactly a chapter called What If I Will Be Unattractive? I say, what if the goal wasn't to pass? What if the goal was first and foremost to take care of your health? I want you to think about that. What if the goal first and foremost is to take care of your health? You need to realize, and you all need to remember, what a toll living with dysphoria takes on your health, what a toll it takes on your capacity to enjoy life, to be present, to be grounded in your life, to derive pleasure from simple things, to be able to focus on things you want to cultivate in your life. Dysphoria clouds all over it. It creates almost this, what I'm thinking about is, mall. It creates like this mall that's molding around you. And the minute it touches something in your life, that side of your life starts to mold too. That's the nasty nature of dysphoria. So think about your health. Very common for people to be catastrophizing to things that will never pass. A lot of these are transphobic fears of society. But focus on the small, what is the smallest step in front of you that you need to do? Think about the smallest steps. What can you do now to alleviate your stress? I wish you all the best. This is really big, and it's a common question. It concerns a lot of people. And others, please comment below, share with these individuals. If you found yourself in this position of having the thoughts, what helped you? Question number 5. Hello, Dr. Z. Thank you so much for your work. It has been a lifeline for me. My pleasure. And all of you, somebody just asked me to do videos for therapists. This is videos for all of you. Therapists can figure it out. I mean, really, there's so many learning resources out there today. I would like to hear your thoughts on distress around genitals. I identify as agender/non-binary, and for the most part, feel great with how I present and whatnot. But I'm very uncomfortable with my female anatomy. I hate having my clothes off, and I can't even imagine trying to have sex. What could be going on? Extreme gender envy? Or maybe I'm actually transmasculine and just not recognizing it. Or maybe it's something else besides a gender issue. I would love to hear any ideas you may have. So you identify as agender/non-binary, but uncomfortable with female anatomy in regards to genitals. What could it be? It could be several things. If you're wondering if this could be that you're more toward transmasculine end of a spectrum, but you're not maybe yet aware about it, One way to explore that is to purchase perhaps like a stand-to-pee device, purchase maybe a packer, something like this that can help you maybe feel what would it feel to embody, to have male genitalia, what would it feel to embody, to have that feeling, see what feelings it might bring up for you. This is a great experimentation in terms of exploring what it might tell you about your genitalia. It also could be that you feel such strong dysphoria in regards to your female anatomy because you have a strong associations to genitals as equals female, and you identify as a gender non-binary. So female is neither here nor there. It kind of yanks you away from your gender identity. So that's something to unpack too. Could it be that and the case here is, again, your strong associations you have and how you can unpack and shift your paradigms in regard to genitals. Remember, we're a society is the ones who gender genitals. Our bodies really are burst without these preconceived notions. This is just us labeling things as we go along. And because we label things, it doesn't mean that that's necessarily right. In fact, we're constantly evolving and learning, and our language evolved and our understanding has evolved. So shift those paradigms, see if you can work and shift those paradigms, would be really, really important for you. Is it gender envy? I don't know, which gender do you find yourself envying? Is there a particular gender you find yourself envying? If so, why? But first I would explore those two primary things. See if you can maybe buy a packer, purchase a packer, and see what that feels like. Explore your feelings, sit with those feelings. What does it feel like to hold a packer in your hands? What kind of sensation, what kind of associations come to mind? And then explore, what are your thoughts? Maybe journal. What do your thoughts come when you think about female anatomy? Why is it so distressing? What about it that is so distressing? What is those feelings are telling you? That's what I would recommend. Dive deeper. It feels like here you need to go a little bit deeper into your associations to it. I know it may be uncomfortable because you're feeling that strong distress, but remember, distresses are strong signals that are telling us something needs to be looked at, something needs to be explored, something is not really bonded in a way that it's and perhaps makes sense to you. So look at the distress, explore a little deeper. If you are in a position to work with a therapist, fantastic. That's a great place to explore that. If not, you can do journaling, exploratory work with yourself. So I would recommend for you to dive deeper because there's no one way to give you an answer. It's impossible. It's impossible to tell because I can tell you need to dive deeper. So that's what I would really recommend for you. And yeah, explore, have fun with it, play. This is your body. Just find out what kind of linkages you have in terms of your head space and that part of your body. Question number 6. Hi, Dr. Z. First, I wanted to say thank you for your channel and helping people with figuring themselves out. You are so welcome. I have 2 things I would like to ask you about. First, in one of your videos, you mentioned memory loss and regression into lost childhood. I'm pretty sure I did not, because I don't speak about memory loss. Regression to childhood. I don't remember a video on that. I don't think I have it. I think it's maybe misunderstanding. Since I have been transitioning, I find myself buying clothes and other things that are very feminine and buying pink glittery wallpaper for my phone or flowery phone cases. So I'm still trying to figure out my full style. I like skirts and dresses, but I don't know how to put an outfit together. I'm trying to live pretty, but I find myself having to go boy mode almost all the time, especially just walking to a gas station because of the fear of being harassed or attacked. So it feels weird to look in the mirror. I wear women's pants, shoes, rings, etc., but I can't bring myself to wear a dress in public. Do you have any advice? So now, again, I'm not sure what you mean by memory loss and regression in the lost childhood. I have not spoken or made video about it. But in terms of being somebody who has what people would typically describe as a hyperfemme style, where you enjoy dresses and skirts, and wanting to express the side of yourself, but yet feeling concerned and afraid to wear that in public because you're afraid of being harassed. What I would recommend is baby steps. First, can you express yourself? Maybe sometimes people feel like they need a friend to do it with, to feel a little bit more safe, to feel a little bit more comfortable. If you don't have a friend to do it with, to be able to go out in publicly is the way you identify the way you see yourself. Either then a safe place where you feel safe to express yourself, either an LGBTQ support group in your place where you live, in your local community, where you can attend the group as yourself. So it's those little steps in environments where you feel safe. If the gas station, like you said, doesn't make you feel safe, perhaps and it's not the safest place, could going to the grocery store and buying something that you need for your home feel more safer. In other words, what environment that you feel could be a little bit safer? Could it be just maybe going outside your house and they can walk around your neighborhood? Think about other, in other words, places that do make you feel safe, and take those little steps. As you build up confidence, as you start feeling more comfortable, then you will feel more comfortable going to places that otherwise make you feel a little bit more uneasy. Always obviously consider your safety. Safety is important. But that's what I would recommend in terms of combating that fear of expressing yourself because you're afraid you might be harassed. The second question you have, second, you briefly touched on memory loss. I'm sorry, I have no idea what you're referring to. I realized something wasn't right about me around 6 or 7. I remember when I was 7 and playing in the yard, it was like I went to bed when I was 7 and woke up and poof, I was 13. I was angry at my body. I was scared of the monster. I became aggressive. I became aggressive and rebellious. I hated that about myself, which made me even more angry from um, job applications. I know which elementary and middle school I went to, but I don't remember them. I've seen satellite photos of the school and couldn't even tell you which side was the front. I don't remember anything from 8 to 13. Could this be related to gender dysphoria? I've been told it could be related to oppressing abuse, but I don't know. So again, I don't know. I don't talk about memory loss. What I talk about is having repressed material to such extent where people either don't recall having gender dysphoria, which is slightly different than necessarily memory loss or some form of memory amnesia that people can suffer. Is it common for people to not have any recollection or details, to not even remember what their school looked like? Yes, I don't think that necessarily has anything to do with gender dysphoria. If you showed me my school on a satellite, I probably wouldn't even recall it. In fact, I went to visit my country in 1998. We immigrated in 1993. So I went to visit my country, as you can see, not that long ago after we immigrated. And just very limited years apart, some things were so drastically different, I couldn't even recall them. Memory is selective. We tend to choose what to remember. We tend to also deconstruct memories. We tend to hold. Memory is never precise. There's no such thing as objectively precise memory. And it's common for people not to file away and remember things that maybe at the time were not relevant to them. So it may not necessarily have anything to do with gender dysphoria. Now, in terms of gender dysphoria, can sometimes make if you're living with gender dysphoria, you can live on autopilot, if you will. You can navigate your life as if you are a little bit sleepwalking. In other words, you're not fully present, especially if dissociation is something that you tend to utilize as coping. You tend to be not to be grounded. And as a result, that's what sometimes causes not fully remembering things because you're just not aware of them to begin with. So I wouldn't necessarily say it's to dysphoria or memory loss. I just think that sometimes, a lot of times, we just don't remember things from our childhood or things from our younger years. Sometimes people have a long blockages of those things. I have blockages from my childhood. Nothing traumatic happened to me. Just again, we're very selective in terms of what we choose to remember. And sorry, I don't really know. I never talked about memory loss per se, or yeah, so comment below, let me know which video you allude to in case if it keeps my mind, but hopefully this helps you clarify a little bit. And again, with your first question, just start looking at the places where you do feel safe to express yourself. Great Q&A, great questions. These are all the questions for today. Comment below, share your input, share your thoughts are, and if you do have a question, you can email it to me at info@drzphc.com, and I will see you all next time. Bye.